The spires of Neo-Alexandria, gleaming with an inner luminescence, pierced the pre-dawn sky. Magnetic levitation platforms hummed softly, transporting citizens and cargo along luminous arterial paths that crisscrossed the city, an intricate dance of light and movement. Beneath the towering hydroponic farms, where bioengineered crops grew bathed in precisely calibrated artificial sunlight, the deep earth energy conduits pulsed with the steady, reliable rhythm of millennial-old power. Lyra, chief grid guardian, surveyed the glowing holographic schematics of the city's vast power network. Every circuit, every conduit, every node represented an unbroken lineage of electrical innovation stretching back to the 3rd century BCE, when the very first spark of practical electricity was harnessed in this same hallowed city. Lyra's gaze lingered on a segment of the grid, a holographic shimmer of green that denoted optimal flow. A subtle vibration resonated through her bones, a faint tingling sensation synchronized with her own heartbeat. It was a constant companion, this deep connection to the etheric current, flowing not just through the city's conduits, but within her bioelectric implants. It wasn't merely technical analysis, it was an intuitive understanding, as if the network itself whispered its secrets directly to her. This unique resonance, a gift and a burden, made her perfectly suited to her role as guardian. Her mind drifted, as it often did, to the echoes of the past. She remembered childhood lessons, steeped in the grand narratives of their illuminated history. They spoke of Hellenistic Alexandria around 280 BCE, a time of unparalleled intellectual fervor. It was then, a pivotal divergence from the forgotten histories of other timelines, that a brilliant, albeit eccentric, scholar named Thales of Miletus the Younger, building upon earlier philosophical curiosities about amber's static properties and the shocks from electric eels, devised a functional wet cell battery. It was a crude thing, copper and iron and a brine solution from the city's vast salt marshes, but it was a spark. Initially, it was little more than a scientific oddity, a curiosity for the intellectual elite of the Alexandrian library. But Thales's successor, the polymath hero of Alexandria, possessed a different kind of genius, one that saw potential in the mundane. Hero quickly recognized the battery's implications and, driven by the pragmatic needs of a rapidly expanding Hellenistic world, developed rudimentary dynamos powered by steam from geothermal vents. He then, with an intuitive leap that still baffled historians, grasped the principles of electromagnetism, using purified iron and copper coils to create powerful magnetic fields. What began as a series of isolated experiments rapidly scaled up. Lyra could almost picture it, the hushed reverence as automated temple doors, once heavy and imposing, now swished open with an ethereal grace, operated by early electric motors. She imagined the awe of citizens witnessing the first electrically illuminated public spaces, transforming bustling souks and forums into vibrant, sleepless centers of activity. Early communication networks, rudimentary telegraph-like devices, allowed unprecedented coordination across empires. This was the true genesis, not just of a technology, but of a new way of life. The consequences of this ancient scientific breakthrough were immense. They rippled through more than 2 millennia, shaping every facet of their world. The Hellenistic world was transformed. Cities like Alexandria, Antioch, and Pergamum became incandescent centers of electrical innovation. Temples, once lit by flickering oil lamps, now shimmered with an ethereal glow, their automated mechanisms seeming truly miraculous. Lyra sometimes wondered if the ancients truly believed these machines were divine interventions, or if they understood the raw ingenuity behind them. Early communication networks, using rudimentary telegraph-like devices, allowed unprecedented coordination across empires, stitching together vast territories with threads of instantaneous information. Merchants could receive market updates from across the Mediterranean in hours, not weeks. Governors could issue decrees that reached distant provinces almost instantly, centralizing power and making governance more efficient. The Roman Republic, encountering these technologically advanced Hellenistic states, swiftly adopted and integrated the principles of electricity. It wasn't a gradual adoption, but a swift and hungry absorption, driven by a pragmatic desire for technological superiority. This led to a much earlier, electrical revolution that preceded their expansion into a truly global empire. The shift was profound. Cities were no longer organic sprawls, but meticulously planned around intricate electrical grids. Public water systems, once reliant on brute force or gravity, were now powered by efficient electric pumps, channeling life-giving water to every corner of their burgeoning metropolises. This greatly increased population density and improved urban health. Even early forms of magnetic levitation, primitive by Neo-Alexandria's standards, were used for ceremonial transport or for moving heavy building materials, allowing for the construction of even grander, more resilient structures that defied the limitations of older techniques. Sanitation improved drastically with electrically powered waste removal, contributing to healthier, more populous urban centers and preventing the plagues that had ravaged other timelines. The application of electricity was not confined to civilian life. Military applications evolved rapidly. Electrified defenses protected city walls, turning sieges into suicidal endeavors. Imagine the shock of invaders finding their scaling ladders supercharged with currents, or their siege engines sparking uncontrollably. Magnetic projectile launchers appeared on battlefields, their silent, lethal force replacing the thud of catapults. These early railguns, powered by massive, temporary batteries, could launch projectiles with devastating accuracy and speed. Early electric-powered vessels patrolled the seas, their swift, silent movements unmatched by traditional oar or sail, projecting power across vast oceans. Naval battles were transformed, silent, maneuverable fleets could strike with impunity, their presence often only detected once their magnetic torpedoes were already in the water. This profound electrical advantage reshaped the balance of power, contributing to the enduring stability of some empires and the accelerated fall of others, redrawing the geopolitical map of antiquity. The Roman Empire, in this timeline, became an enduring global power, its electrical prowess allowing for unprecedented logistical control and rapid deployment of resources across its vast domain. The Silk Road, instead of caravans, saw early electric vehicles traversing established, magnetically guided routes, facilitating trade and cultural exchange on an unimaginable scale. Lyra zoomed in on a section of the holographic grid, its complexity mirroring the continuous industrial revolutions that had defined their history. Without the energy bottleneck of other timelines, multiple industrial revolutions occurred much earlier and more continuously. While steam power still had its place in certain heavy industries, electrical power became the primary driver for machinery, leading to faster, cleaner, and more widespread industrialization. The invention of the electric motor in antiquity meant that factories and automated production lines were concepts understood and refined over 2,000 years. The very idea of mass production, of intricate robotic assembly, wasn't a sudden leap but a slow, continuous evolution, each century building upon the last. This meant less pollution, more efficient resource use, and a slower depletion of fossil fuels, as electricity dominated early on. The industrial landscape wasn't scarred by belching smokestacks, but glowed with the clean hum of electric motors. Global communication was revolutionized repeatedly. From ancient electrical signaling to complex transcontinental networks, information flowed across the planet at near-instantaneous speeds for millennia. Lyra often pondered the implications of this. It meant that cultures interconnected earlier, leading to a complex tapestry of interwoven global traditions. Philosophical and scientific ideas circulated globally, creating a different, more collaborative intellectual landscape. Renaissance-era thinkers engaged with concepts that would have been unimaginable to their counterparts in other histories, their ideas disseminated globally in real time. This fostered an accelerated pace of innovation across all fields. But she also knew the darker side. It allowed for the rapid spread of propaganda or stringent control by centralized authorities. The Roman Empire, for instance, used its vast communication network to maintain an iron grip on its populace, disseminating official narratives and suppressing dissent with chilling efficiency. Rebellions were often quelled before they could truly begin, thanks to rapid intelligence gathering. The abundance of electrical power allowed for truly ambitious projects. Climate engineering, a concept barely conceived in other histories until ecological crisis forced its hand, began centuries ago in their timeline. Addressing the early atmospheric impacts of widespread industrialization and energy consumption became a priority long before it was critical. Ancient Alexandrian academies, armed with robust energy supplies, conducted atmospheric composition studies and developed early, rudimentary carbon capture devices. This led to advanced techniques for carbon capture, atmospheric regulation, and even localized weather control, making environmental stewardship a deeply ingrained, ancient practice. Lyra recalled reading about the great atmospheric regulators of the 12th century, vast, electrically powered installations that filtered the air and stabilized global temperatures. The very air Lyra breathed, the balanced climate she enjoyed, was a legacy of proactive, electrically powered solutions centuries in the making. There were no devastating industrial revolutions followed by desperate, last-minute attempts to save the planet. Rather, it was a continuous process of refinement and balance. In 2025, the world was a testament to the enduring power of electrical mastery. Cities everywhere glowed with soft, efficient light, their structures often incorporating dynamic, responsive illuminated surfaces that shifted color and intensity with the city's mood. Buildings weren't just static structures, they were living canvases of light, reflecting the rhythm of urban life. Personal electric vehicles were ubiquitous, zipping through multi-layered urban environments, powered by a vast, decentralized yet interconnected global grid. Lyra sometimes took her own personal hoverpod out just to feel the hum of the power beneath her, a subtle vibration that resonated with the implants near her temple. The air was clean, the noise minimal, the movement a symphony of efficiency. Society was profoundly shaped by this pervasive power. Work patterns, leisure activities, and social interactions were all influenced by constant access to light, communication, and automation. There were no dark ages, or periods of limited access to information. The flow of knowledge was constant. People often worked fewer hours due to automation, dedicating more time to intellectual pursuits, arts, and personal development. There was a deep, almost spiritual, connection to electricity, often referred to as the etheric current or the spark of life, weaving its way into philosophy, art, and daily rituals. Lyra felt it herself, that deep, pervasive hum, the subtle vibration passing through her bones, the light tingling that synchronized with her heartbeat. It wasn't just technical, it was almost a sixth sense, an intrinsic understanding of the flow, a deep resonance with the very fabric of their world. Education systems, often powered by vast server farms running ancient algorithms, focused relentlessly on the principles of energy, engineering, and sustainable resource management. Children learned about circuits before they learned to read, about power flows before they learned to write. History classes weren't just about dates and battles, but about the evolution of power, the great innovators, and the complex interplay between energy and society. Global geopolitics often revolved around control of vast energy reserves, geothermal, tidal, solar, or even nascent quantum sources, and, crucially, the integrity of the global electrical grid. Nations' power was tied not just to military might, but to their capacity for energy generation, distribution, and resilience against systemic electrical failures. A disrupted grid was not just a blackout, it was a collapse of society, a vulnerability greater than any weapon. Interdependence was both their strength and their greatest weakness. Lyra's position as chief grid guardian was not merely a technical one, it held immense geopolitical significance, the weight of a planet's well-being resting on the stability of her network. Treaties were signed, and wars were almost fought, over access to quantum energy nexus points or the control of transcontinental conduits. Cybersecurity for the grid was the most critical field of defense, with entire branches of military dedicated solely to protecting the flow of the etheric current. Lyra's implants pulsed subtly beneath her temple as she gazed at the glowing holographic schematics of Alexandria's power network. Below her, the city shimmered, a labyrinth of interconnected light. The network was a marvel of continuous ancient engineering, tracing its roots back to the 3rd century BCE, when the first Alexandrian scholars, inspired by the spark of the deep sea eel and the magnetic pull of the northern stone, truly harnessed the etheric current. Guardian Lyra, her assistant, Kale, reported, his voice a synthesized calm from the network. Kale was an advanced AI, his presence ubiquitous throughout the grid, his processing power dedicated to its optimization and maintenance. He was more than just a voice, he was a distributed intelligence, his awareness spread across every node, every conduit, a silent, omnipresent partner in Lyra's command. The anomalous energy signature in Sector Gamma A7 is amplifying. It's radiating from beneath the original Serapeum excavation site. Our diagnostics indicate a unique frequency, unlike any known power source, ancient or modern. It's harmonic, yet utterly alien. Lyra frowned, her internal interface highlighting the anomaly on the holographic map. This, ghost in the machine, as she'd privately dubbed it, had been a persistent anomaly for weeks. It wasn't a fault, it was an energy signature, a faint, rhythmic pulse originating from the deepest, pre-Ptolemaic layers of the city. Modern scans showed peculiar metallic structures, unlike anything in the Alexandrian electrical canon. These structures were embedded deep within the bedrock, far below the Roman and Hellenistic foundations, suggesting an origin far older than even their most ancient records. It was a discordant note in a symphony that had played for millennia. Run a full spectrum analysis, Kale. Cross-reference with pre-dynastic geological surveys, and anything we have on seismic anomalies in the region, Lyra commanded, her voice firm, a hint of urgency in her tone. Her implants tingled, a familiar sensation as she pushed them to interface with the deeper layers of the grid, trying to feel the anomaly, to intuit its nature. She focused on the faint, unique hum, trying to decipher its rhythm, its harmonic. It was a perfect, resonant tone, unlike the chaotic, generated frequencies of human technology. It hinted at something older, something primordial, perhaps even a forgotten civilization that understood aspects of electromagnetism before the Hellenistic scholars, a predecessor to their own Genesis. She thought of the ancient legends, whispered in hushed tones among the scholars and the oldest historians, of a time before the Great Library, when the very earth itself sang with invisible power. These weren't mere folklore, but tantalizing fragments of a dimly remembered past, preserved in obscure texts and oral traditions. Some spoke of as star shards that pulsed with light, or earth veins that hummed with a life of their own. Could this anomaly be a physical manifestation of these myths? Was it an ancient power source, a relic of a time when the very laws of physics might have been understood differently? The anomaly pulsed again, stronger this time, a deeper thrum that resonated not just through the grid, but within Lyra herself. It wasn't just a vibration, it was a subtle pull, a magnetic resonance that seemed to tug at the biocircuitry in her temples. It was a call from the ancient depths, a silent, profound beckoning. Kale's synthesized voice returned, tinged with a digital equivalent of awe. Guardian, the geological scans show no natural anomalies. The metallic structures are arranged in a precise, geometric pattern. And the frequency, it's creating a localized temporal distortion field. Minute, but measurable. Something is actively drawing energy from the very fabric of spacetime. Lyra's eyes widened. Temporal distortion? That was a concept bordering on the mythical, a theoretical possibility discussed in the most esoteric branches of quantum physics, requiring energy levels beyond even their most advanced quantum generators. Temporal distortion, Kale? Are you certain? Affirmative, Guardian. The effect is minimal, but consistent. It's like a tiny, focused eddy in the river of time, flowing around the source of the anomaly. And the energy signature itself, it's almost a perfect sine wave. No noise, no dissipation. Impossible for any known generator. We are detecting faint, highly compressed data packets emanating from the source, unlike any known encryption or data structure. The power draw is immense, yet it leaves no detectable footprint on the local energy grid. It's as if it's pulling energy from a dimension we can't perceive. This wasn't just an ancient power source. This was something else entirely. Something alien, perhaps, or something that predated even their own civilization's understanding of physics. The Serapeum site was one of the oldest continually excavated areas in Neo-Alexandria, constantly yielding new archaeological layers, but nothing like this had ever surfaced. The deeper one went, the more rudimentary the findings, until they reached the barren bedrock. Or so they thought. Lyra felt a chill, despite the warm ambient light of the grid command center. This wasn't merely a technical puzzle for her to solve, it was a profound historical and scientific mystery. If this source of energy predated their own electrical awakening, what did it mean for their understanding of their past? Had Thales and Hero merely stumbled upon a forgotten knowledge, rediscovering principles that had been known and perhaps even mastered by an earlier civilization? And if so, what happened to them? Why were they erased from history? The data packets, if decipherable, could hold answers that would shatter their established historical narrative. Days bled into nights as Lyra and Kale immersed themselves in the enigma of Sector Gamma 7. The initial deep scans revealed tantalizing images of the metallic structures. They were not solid, but interwoven lattices of an unknown alloy, pulsating with an internal glow that mirrored the anomaly's frequency. The geometric pattern Kale had identified was not just precise, it was impossibly complex, a three-dimensional fractal design that seemed to defy conventional engineering. The structures extended far deeper than anticipated, suggesting an immense, buried complex. The data packets are resisting all attempts at decryption, Guardian, Kale reported one evening, his voice tinged with the digital equivalent of frustration. The patterns are too dense, too alien. They don't conform to any known linguistic, mathematical, or even quantum encryption models. It's like trying to read a thought. Lyra rubbed her temples, her implants aching with the strain of constant interface. Keep trying, Kale. Run every heuristic, every permutation. There has to be a key. She stared at the holographic projection of the structure, a vast, glowing skeleton beneath the city. The temporal distortion, though still minimal, was slowly expanding, creating subtle, unmeasurable shifts in the flow of power in the immediate vicinity. It was like a micro-black hole, but instead of consuming matter, it seemed to be drawing on time itself. Guardian, I've cross-referenced the unique alloy composition, Kale announced suddenly, a note of triumph in his voice. There's a single, obscure reference in the deepest archived geological survey logs. A notation from an excavation in the Sahara, dated to the 19th century. A small, anomalous metallic fragment found in a geologically impossible stratum. The analysis was inconclusive then, but it matches the elemental signature of the Serapeum structure almost perfectly. Lyra sat up, eyes wide. The Sahara? That's thousands of kilometers from here. A single fragment? Yes. Dismissed as a natural anomaly or a meteorite fragment at the time. But the elemental ratios are too precise, too stable for natural formation. It suggests a manufactured origin. Meaning, Lyra finished, a cold dread creeping into her voice, this isn't unique to Alexandria. This technology, whatever it is, was once widespread. A chilling thought formed in her mind. If this was a global civilization, what happened to it? Why were there no other records? The sheer scale of such a disappearance was unfathomable. The anomaly's hum intensified, and Lyra's implants pulsed sharply, a blinding flash behind her eyes. Kale's projection flickered, and a new, intricate pattern began to overlay the existing grid schematics. It wasn't Kale's doing. It was coming from the anomaly itself. The faint data packets had finally found a receptive frequency within Lyra's bioelectric implants, bypassing Kale's algorithms entirely, directly interfacing with her consciousness. Images flooded Lyra's mind, not static pictures, but fleeting impressions, raw data, a cascade of sensory input that overwhelmed her, threatening to pull her under. She saw sweeping landscapes bathed in an unfamiliar, vibrant light, a sun that felt both distant and intimately connected to this power. Structures unlike anything human, organic and crystalline at once, pulsed with that same perfect sine wave energy. Beings, tall and slender, moved with an ethereal grace, their forms shimmering with internal light, communicating not with words, but with direct thought forms, concepts transmitted as pure energy. They built cities of light, moved mountains with focused thought, their entire existence interwoven with this limitless energy. Then, a sudden, violent shift. The vibrant light dimmed. The harmonious hum turned to a discordant shriek, a cacophony of pure energy tearing itself apart. The shimmering forms of the beings flickered, distorting, as if being pulled apart by an unseen force, their inner light dimming, then extinguishing. Lyra felt a crushing pressure, a profound sense of loss and desperation that was not her own, but an ancient echo of unimaginable suffering. She saw colossal energy conduits, far grander than anything Neo-Alexandria possessed, buckling and tearing, unleashing raw temporal energy that fractured reality. The earth itself seemed to convulse, cities melting into shimmering mirages, then nothing. A profound silence fell, a void where vibrant life once pulsed. She recoiled, gasping, pulling back from the overwhelming influx of information, her body trembling violently. Her implants screamed in protest, overloaded. Kale's voice, distant and worried, cut through the fading echoes. Guardian Lyra. Your bio readings are spiking. Your neural pathways are overtaxed. What happened? Lyra struggled to regain her composure, the images still swirling behind her eyes, the echoes of a lost civilization's demise reverberating in her very core. Her professional duty, ingrained for decades, surged through her, overriding the primal fear. She was the chief grid guardian. Her world depended on her. Kale, it wasn't just data. It was a memory. A civilization, she whispered, her voice hoarse. They used this energy. The etheric current, it was their lifeblood. Their sole source of power. A civilization? Kale repeated, his internal processors whirring as he tried to reconcile this with his data. There are no archaeological records of a global pre-Hellenistic civilization with such advanced technology. Nothing in our databanks matches your description. Because they vanished, Kale, Lyra said, the chilling truth settling in her bones, merging with the echoes she'd just experienced. They were using this energy, the perfect sine wave, but it wasn't sustainable. It was drawing from spacetime itself. The temporal distortion. They drained their own existence. They consumed time. The implications were catastrophic. Their etheric current, the spark of life, the very foundation of their millennia-long civilization, was a filtered, imperfect echo of this primal, dangerous energy. Thales and Hero, in their brilliance, had not simply discovered electricity, they had stumbled upon a residual field, a weakened echo of a force that had once consumed an entire civilization. The anomalous energy signature wasn't just a relic, it was a leak, a warning. Kale, that harmonic frequency, Lyra said, her voice strained but resolute. The one that's impossible for any known generator. They weren't generating it. They were tapping into it. It was a natural phenomenon, a wellspring of infinite power, but one that was intrinsically linked to the temporal fabric of reality. Their reliance on it created the distortion, growing exponentially until there was nothing left but this echo, a temporal scar on the universe. A new image flashed in her mind, involuntary this time, clearer than before. A vast, intricate symbol, glowing with internal light, pulsed at the heart of the deepest structure. It was not a language, but a pure concept, a warning. Balance. Do not draw. Sustain. They left a message, Lyra breathed, pointing a trembling finger at the holographic projection where the symbol now faintly shimmered. That symbol, it's a warning. They understood, at the end. They understood what they had done. They found a way to encode their final moments, their ultimate realization, into the very energy signature itself. Kale's processing hum intensified. If this is true, Guardian, then our current energy sources, are geothermal, tidal, solar, even quantum. Are they also drawing from this primal current, however indirectly? Yes, Lyra said, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. Our grid, our entire civilization, is built on the residual power of a catastrophic event. We have refined it, diversified it, made it clean, but the fundamental principle of tapping into the etheric current might have a hidden, dangerous cost, a temporal debt that accumulates slowly, imperceptibly. We are living on borrowed time, quite literally. The city outside, with its gleaming spires and humming platforms, suddenly seemed fragile, built on a foundation of forgotten peril. The unbroken lineage of electrical innovation was not just a story of progress, but a narrative of unknowingly inheriting a profound cosmic error. Lyra looked at the accelerating temporal distortion readings in Sector Gamma 7. The leak was growing. If it intensified, it could unravel not just Neo-Alexandria, but the very timeline that had allowed them to exist. The energy that birthed their world could also unmake it. Kale, Lyra's voice was sharp, cutting through the awe and fear, her professionalism cementing her resolve. Activate the deepest resonance dampeners in Sector Gamma 7. Divert all available power to stabilize the surrounding bedrock. We need to contain this. Immediately. Every resource, every available conduit. Now. Understood, Guardian, Kale replied, his voice regaining its usual calm, though Lyra could detect a hint of urgency in the subtle shift of his synthesized tones. The holographic schematics on the main console began to glow with urgent red alerts as power was rerouted, and specialized dampening fields began to activate deep beneath the city, their purpose now far more critical than simple energy regulation. Lyra knew this was just the beginning. Containing the leak was critical, but it wouldn't solve the fundamental problem. They had inherited a power source whose true nature was devastating. Their millennia of progress, their very existence, was a consequence of a forgotten civilization's self-destruction. The future of their luminescent world now depended on understanding the true etheric current, not just harnessing it, but respecting its profound, temporal cost. The whispers from the past had just become a roaring siren, demanding their attention. The echo in the grid had awakened, and Lyra, chief grid guardian, was now faced with the most daunting task in the history of their illuminated civilization, to find a way to truly balance the spark of life, before it consumed them all. Her own connection to the current, once a comfort, now felt like a direct link to the impending doom, a living fuse ticking down.